So explain to me, and I don't get this, right? Explain to me why it is that a corporation, or even a corporation owned by, say, a Saudi prince, or partly owned, should be able to be electioneering, should be able to be influencing the votes of American citizens.
All right. Well, first let's break those two questions out. One is a corporation owned by a Saudi prince is not allowed to do that. All right.
Well, no. Fox News, gave a pile of money out, and Saudi prince owns 7% of the News Corp.
Okay. Now let's look at the.
In fact, it was Prince bin Talaweed or whatever his name is. He tried to give $10 million to I think it was $10 million to Rudy Giuliani after 9/11. Giuliani turned it down.
Okay. Now it's unlawful for aliens to make contributions in political campaigns, but it's perfectly lawful for aliens to spend money to try to convince Americans of their point of view, right?
My point,
no
why would that be lawful?
Well, because how are you going to stop it, right? The First Amendment applies to people within the United States, okay? I mean, how are we going to stop, especially in a modern media world, we're going to stop a foreigner from influencing American
Well, so you're saying it's just fine if China, for example, decided that they wanted to give Karl Rove a couple $100 million to get somebody elected.
That's exactly what they can't do. And that's the point I've just made. They can't give money specifically to try to get people elected.
But their corporations
can. About elections. No, their corporations cannot. They're also prohibited from doing so. Now, why can corporations give? Well, let's put it this way. Let me answer your core question, right? I mean, you tried to prejudice a little bit by bringing in the Saudi prince, but let's set that aside. Let's talk about corporations.
We could talk about Al Qaeda instead.
Let's talk about corporations. If I go down and I want to speak on the Village Square, I can do that. And if you go down and you want to speak on the Village Square, you can do that. And if Shane goes down, he can do that. And the three of us can get together and do that, all right? We don't lose our rights just because the three of us are now together. And if we decide, well, let's incorporate so that we can have a bank account and have a way to structure and operate it, we don't lose our rights. I always laughed when Occupy Wall Street was there and they started getting all this money coming in from unions and stuff. And I remember seeing an interview with this guy, and he's like, oh, we've got to figure out some mechanism to handle all this. We don't know what to do. How can we set up a bank account? The law has a mechanism for that. It's called a corporation. In other words, in this respect, corporations have rights because we as people have rights. Corporations are not people, but we as people have rights, and we don't lose them simply because we organize in a corporate form.
So you're suggesting that a corporation should have the right to influence elections?
Sure.
Because it's a group of people.
Right.
And that's a constitutional right, in your opinion?
Yes.
Protected by the First Amendment?
Yes.
Should a corporation have a right to marry?
No, because people... Right,
should a corporation have a right to own weapons?
Well, no. These are silly kind
of... Bear arms?
Corporations do have rights to own weapons. Okay. And these are kind of silly to say, like, should a corporation marry? Corporations have
rights to privacy?
They have the rights that... Yes, they do. They have the rights that we as individuals have when we get together to do things. So a corporation, for example, can't run for office because we don't run for office as a group.
This seems to me, frankly, Brad, this is the most outrageous BS I've ever heard.
I agree with what you're saying, Tom. We're back at you.
To say that a corporation has a right to privacy when all a corporation is a group of people that we have given privileges to in exchange for their doing business in a way that presumably is going to interest
So you are of the belief
interest.
that the police should not have to have a warrant before they come and raid the business. If they want to search the Thom Hartmann show, they can come in, kick the door down. They don't need a warrant. They don't need probable cause because you're incorporated.
In this country, until the 1920s, every corporation's books had to be open to the Secretary
You're not answering my question,
are
you? You're not going to answer my question. Should they be able to come into your office without a warrant and just come in and start searching things?
If I'm doing business in public, sure.
Okay, should they be able to just take all your property because corporations don't have any rights?
I'm not
take all your
about
broadcasting equipment, just take it off, carry it away. You get nothing for it.
No. Obviously.
Why not? Why not?
Because
you're a corporation. You don't have any rights.
No, Brad, you're mixing apples and oranges.
Right back at you, Tom. Right back at you.
A corporation is a way of avoiding liability. I mean, this is the essence of a corporation. This is why the corporate form was set up.
You don't avoid liability in a corporation.
You certainly do. If I put $50,000 into a corporation and I run up $500,000 worth of debts and decide to walk away from it, the limit of my liability is $50,000.
That's correct.
If I personally go out and run up $500,000 worth of debts, I'm stuck with $500,000 worth of debt. I can declare personal bankruptcy, but it's going to be on me. I can't walk away from it and say there's a limitation of my liability.
It depends on how you think about it. If you negotiate a deal with everybody and you say to the banks, and they'll agree to this, you say, look, I'm not going to be liable for more than $50,000 that I owe. That's the way it is. That's what you can limit your liability, and that's essentially
By
what
contract.
a corporation, right? And that's essentially what a corporation is. A corporation is a web of contracts and agreements that we as people have that make our society more efficient and our lives easier to run.
And you're saying that a corporation should be able to influence elections.
I'm saying a group of people have a right to influence elections.
A group of people called a corporation should have the right to
organize as a corporation.
A group of people organized as a corporation should have the right to influence elections. And yet, the reason why people get together as corporations is to make money.
Not necessarily. Sometimes they get together as corporations to influence elections.
Well, you're true. That's right. 501c4s, for example, under the tax code.
They get together for many reasons.
Okay, so if they're getting together to influence, this just seems fundamentally wrong to me. I can't, we the people, the first three words of the Constitution was not we the corporations. The word corporation does not appear in the Constitution.
Right, but corporations are not people, but they're made up of people. But let me say, here's what I would say to your listeners, who I guess are probably like you, not very sympathetic to my position. The core issue here that really needs to be debated, and again, we probably disagree, but I think it's the key issue, is the effects of money in politics. If ExxonMobil were to reorganize as a partnership, right, you wouldn't suddenly say, oh, well, it's fine if ExxonMobil now wants to spend $5 million to influence elections, right? In other words, and nor are most people I talk to on the progressive side terribly upset that small nonprofits, which are incorporated, might spend money. So I think we really need to focus this debate on the idea of what are the effects of money in politics, and do we have a right to limit money in politics, rather than worrying about the form in which somebody's organized.
You're mischaracterizing my positions on it. I believe personally that corporations are not people and do not have constitutional rights.
I agree, they're not
people. Do not have constitutional rights.
I disagree with you there.
The individuals within a corporation have constitutional rights. The corporation itself, if you decide that you're going to create a corporate form, you are doing it subject to the laws of the state. Period. End of discussion.
So you believe the takings clause doesn't apply to a corporation?
That's
the government
correct.
can just come in and take all their assets. They can seize ExxonMobil tomorrow. The shareholders get nothing, and it's just tough.
If that is the law that our elected representatives pass, it would not be unconstitutional. Yes, I absolutely agree with that statement.
Well, boy, see, I don't think most people really want that.
Well, no, I don't either, and that's why I don't think Americans would ever vote for that. No, do you understand what I'm saying, Brad?
I do understand what you're saying there. Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, if we got together, so therefore, no, corporations do not have constitutional rights. Period. And if the majority of Americans wanted to vote for people who said yes, come in and take all of Thom Hartmann's stuff, like nationalizing, fine. That's fine. That's the will of the people. But secondly, I don't think money is speech either. And that's the second very toxic part of Citizens United is to say that money is speech. The billionaires' voices should be louder than my voice or your voice.
Well, in the end, again, it's very hard to speak if you can't spend money. I mean, you're spending money to air this TV show right now. I had to spend money.
No, it's actually the other way around. Yeah. They pay me.
Well, but the point is still money is being spent to get this show on the air, and so you couldn't publish the New York Times if you didn't spend money. And when you start to limit money for the purpose of limiting speech, then you've got a First Amendment problem.
In the UK, you can spend $100,000 getting elected.
That's right.
Period. And regardless of where it comes from, and that's why their elections run 5 weeks. What's wrong with that?
What would you think if we
What's
said?
wrong with that?
Well, that's not why their elections run 5 weeks. Let me ask you real quickly.
What's wrong with that limit? That
it limits the speech of Britons, and I think that's a bad thing. But I think it's worse for us in our culture. Let me ask you a question. What if we said you can practice any religion you want, you just can't spend any money to hire pastors and so on? Would that be a problem for you?
It's a completely irrelevant question. It has nothing to do with whether or not money should be able to influence
question: is money
politics.
religion? Money's not a religion.
You're right. Money is not a religion. Money is not speech. Money is money. It's property.
That's right. But
it's
if you
property.
Spend money for church. Well, Tom, I appreciate it. I appreciate that you come here, and I appreciate you having me on. It's always fun.
We're out of time. Your website, once again, was?
CampaignFreedom.org.
CampaignFreedom.org.
Thanks so much.
People can check it out. Bradley A. Smith. We'll be right back.